Jade Carter didn't belong at this wedding. Not really. She stood behind a lattice of imported roses, wire cutters in one hand, a wilting hydrangea in the other, while voices floated through the humid South Carolina air. Champagne laughter, polished vowels, moneyed charm. The kind of voices that belonged to families who took generational wealth for granted, who thought good taste came pre-packaged with their last name. She was the florist's assistant, temporary, unseen. The bride wanted cascading garden-style arrangements with blush undertones. The wedding planner had insisted on quiet elegance. The mother of the groom, according to whispered gossip, had rewritten the entire floral concept the night before because hydrangeas say suburb, not legacy. No one asked Jade's opinion. She just made sure the blooms didn't fall apart under the weight of the humidity or expectations. She reached forward to reposition a pale dahlia, only to be scolded from across the lawn. "Flowers don't touch linen, Carter," snapped the coordinator, clipboard in hand. "They stain." Jade bit her tongue, pulled back her hand, and nodded. She knew better than to correct anyone in a cream pantsuit holding a headset. Her grandmother used to say, "Don't speak, don't sink, just float." So she floated, from table to table, adjusting, fixing, blending into the color palette, the background, the labor. She didn't notice him at first, not until she turned, quick and ungraceful, nearly bumping into a man standing too close to the corner of the tent. His tie was crooked, slightly askew against a crisp white shirt and tailored navy jacket that screamed wealth in its understatement. The kind of tie that looked expensive, even when imperfect. "Sorry," Jade murmured, reaching to steady a vase that had teetered from their almost collision. But the man didn't move. His hands were by his side, eyes far off, distracted. That's when she did it. Instinct. That's what she'd call it later. Not boldness, not nerves, just muscle memory from a childhood spent fixing church choir uniforms, untwisting her brother's school tie before picture day. She reached up and gently realigned his tie. Her fingers worked quickly, precise. A small tuck here, a smoothing there. "There," she said softly, stepping back. "Better." Only then did he look at her. Sharp gray eyes, not cold exactly, more like observant, reserved, as though he wasn't used to people touching him without permission or pretense. "You did that," he said, "like it wasn't your first time saving someone." Jade blinked. Was that sarcasm? A line? She offered a small, polite smile. "You were 2 seconds away from being immortalized in someone's wedding photos with a twisted tie. I just spared you years of shame." He almost smiled, almost. But before she could say more, the earpiece crackled in her coordinator's headset, and she was called away. She left without asking his name. She didn't think about him again. Not yet. Not until 20 minutes later, when she was placing fresh eucalyptus into a centerpiece and overheard a bridesmaid whisper, "She's just one of the help, one of those last-minute hires, not even on payroll. Can't believe she touched him." The other woman laughed behind a champagne flute. Jade didn't turn. She just kept arranging, her hand steady, her spine straighter than before. Later, she learned who he was. Brandon Cole, billionaire, aviation mogul, tech sector royalty, owner of Coltech Aviation, the man who built a fleet of sustainable private jets and once gave a TED Talk titled, "Time is the Only Luxury." He was the brother of the groom's sister-in-law, Only here out of obligation, someone had said. Supposed to stay for an hour before flying back to Miami on his own jet. Only he didn't leave. He lingered. No speeches, no spotlight. Just watched. She saw him once near the back patio, speaking softly to the chef about the hors d'oeuvres. Another time, he stepped in to redirect a screaming toddler to his mother. Later, he helped an elderly guest down a stone step before anyone else noticed she was struggling. But mostly, he watched Jade as she calmed a crying flower girl whose shoe strap had broken, as she knelt beside a passed-out groomsman, fanning him with a linen napkin, as she handed a water bottle to a guest too proud to ask for one. That night, after the lights dimmed and the last of the cake was cut, Jade began clearing the vases, her back aching. The florist had already left. The rest of the staff thinned out quickly, the temporary kind, people with second jobs or first dreams. She was almost gone when a junior planner approached her. "You're Jade, right?" She nodded. "Mr. Cole would like a word. He's on the veranda." Her stomach dropped. Did she mess something up? Was this about the tie? She wiped her hands on her apron, pulled her curls into a loose knot, and walked slowly across the lawn. He stood alone, near a column, the last string lights flickering above. "Mr. Cole," she said, trying to sound calm. "Brandon," he corrected. She didn't respond. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Do you know how many people here today did something genuinely kind?" She shrugged. "I assume a few." "One, just one." He stepped closer. "You." Jade tilted her head. "Look, I'm not sure what you think you saw." "I saw someone fix a tie without making a scene. Someone rescue a child without waiting for thanks. Someone do the quiet work, the hard work, without being asked, applauded, or even acknowledged." She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "I'm just here to arrange flowers." "No, you were the one holding the day together while everyone else posed for it." She felt something shift in her chest. Not pride, not exactly, but something warmer, more frightening. "I do what needs doing," she said finally. "Like anyone would." He smiled. "That's where you're wrong." She looked down, suddenly aware of her shoes, her fraying apron, the smear of pollen on her forearm. "You could have left hours ago," he added. "So could you." He didn't laugh, just checked his watch. Then his phone buzzed. He answered. "Yes, I know. Delay it. 20 minutes. Or cancel." Pause. Then cancel. He hung up. Jade's eyes widened. "Did you just cancel your flight?" He nodded. "I did." "Because of a tie?" "No, because of you." Silence stretched long between them. He reached into his pocket and handed her a simple ivory card, the name embossed in silver foil, Cole Foundation for Young Creatives. "Call if you ever want to build something of your own." She blinked, confused. "Why would you think I—" "Because I asked the florist about you. She said you dream of opening a floral studio, one with community workshops. You just don't know where to start." She swallowed. "I'm not looking for charity." "It's not charity. It's an investment." She looked at the card, then at him. "I'm not looking for attention either." Brandon nodded. "Then this is the end of the conversation, unless you change your mind." He turned, began to walk away. "Wait." He paused. "You didn't fix your tie," she said softly. He smiled. "I was waiting for an excuse to ask you again." 3 weeks passed. Jade Carter didn't think he'd meant it. The billionaire, the jet, the tie. People like Brandon Cole didn't cancel private flights for florists. People like Brandon Cole didn't carry business cards with embossed foundations named after themselves unless they were meant for museum plaques or gala speeches. She'd tucked the card away anyway, in her wallet, behind her grocery receipt and expired bus pass. And she kept working. Same shifts, same muscle aches, same whispers from planners who never learned her name. She was good with flowers, fast with problems, invisible when needed. All the things that made her useful but not memorable. Then, one Wednesday, her phone buzzed with a number she didn't recognize. She let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes later, her email chimed. Subject, application reviewed. Jade Carter. She blinked at the sender. Cole Foundation for Young Creatives inside, a single sentence. Your application has been approved. A member of our team will follow up for onboarding. The board was especially impressed by your proposal for community-based floral arts education. She didn't even remember applying, and then she realized she hadn't. At least, not directly. Somewhere, someone had submitted it for her. The next day, a courier arrived at her apartment with a box wrapped in thick navy ribbon. Inside, legal forms, a funding agreement, and a personal letter. Not typed, handwritten. You once said you weren't looking for attention. That's not what this is. This is an invitation. The world needs people who know how to create beauty from nothing. Call if you're willing to build something that's yours. B. Jade sat in silence for a long time. Then she called. Not to thank him, just to say, "What exactly do I owe you for this?" Brandon Cole answered immediately. His voice was calm, matter-of-fact. Nothing, except maybe an update someday, when it's real. So she made it real. The studio space wasn't much, an old warehouse with one working sink and no central air, but it was hers. Bloom by Jade opened quietly. No launch parties, no ribbon cuttings, just a chalkboard sign out front and petals scattered across the floor like breadcrumbs leading to something new. The grant covered her rent for a year, and the classes? Free. She opened them to girls who'd never touched a rose before without being told to serve it. Mothers came with toddlers. Retired women came with stories. Sometimes Jade would work until midnight, hands stained green, dreams blooming in vases before they ever did in bank accounts. She didn't hear from Brandon again, not directly, but sometimes there were signs. An unexpected delivery of rare peonies during a drought. A check arriving after her cooler broke down marked anonymous donation. A stranger from the Chamber of Commerce walking in and asking if she wanted to be featured in their New Creatives issue. He wasn't reaching out. He was watching from a distance, and somehow that made it safer. Until the invitation arrived. Cream envelope, gold ink, Cole Tech Aviation, private reception, New York City. Jade stared at it like it was addressed to someone else. Inside was a brief note. 1 year ago, you saved my tie. I figured it's time I returned the favor. Come see what you helped build. Or not. No expectations. She didn't respond for 2 days. Then, on a strange surge of something like courage, she booked a train, not a plane. a train, because she wanted the hours to think, to feel the rhythm of forward motion, to remember what it meant to arrive slowly. The event was hosted in a high-rise with glass walls and floating gardens, too sleek, too modern, too far from anything she grew up knowing. She almost turned around in the lobby, but then she heard someone laugh, an older woman, asking a waiter if the wine was actually from France or just wearing the accent. Jade smiled, just a little. She stepped onto the elevator. Up. The party was already full when she arrived. Glasses clinking, laughter echoing through curated lighting, and champagne reflections. Nobody looked at her twice, except one man, standing near the far balcony, no entourage, no drink in hand. Brandon Cole, and his tie, slightly crooked. She froze. He didn't move, didn't wave, just waited. So she walked, across polished floors, past curious glances, all the way to him. "You did that on purpose," she said softly, eyes narrowing. His mouth twitched. "I needed a reason." She stared at him, and for the first time really saw him, not the billionaire, not the suit, just a man with tired eyes, a soft voice, and a quiet kind of attention that didn't demand, just offered. "What is this?" she asked. "This? This reception, this room, this us." He didn't hesitate. "This is a woman who once fixed a stranger's tie without knowing who he was, and that man realizing he didn't want to go back to the world he came from, not without understanding who she was." Jade exhaled slowly. "You don't owe me anything." "I know. I'm not here to be saved." "I know that, too." He reached into his pocket and handed her a small flat card, the same ivory stock as before. Except this time, the name embossed beneath hers wasn't just Jade Carter. It read, "Creative Director, Bloom by Jade," and under that, in lighter ink, "In partnership with the Cole Foundation." She looked up, heart stuttering. "You don't have to accept," he said, "but you've already earned it. I'm not used to people believing in me before I prove anything." "You already did," Brandon said. "That day, when no one else was paying attention." They stood on the terrace as the city lights pulsed below. Nobody laughed at her this time. Nobody whispered. People watched, with curiosity, with something close to respect. She reached up, and this time she fixed his tie slowly, deliberately, eyes never leaving his. "There," she said. "Now you're ready." He smiled. "Maybe I've been waiting for you to say that." 6 months later, Jade Carter stood beneath the canopy of her own shop, not the borrowed temporary kind, but one with her name etched into the glass. Bloom by Jade. It smelled like jasmine and ambition. There were new vases now, brass-lined, and hardwood tables repurposed from reclaimed barnwood. The walls bore framed sketches of her earliest designs and photos of students from her community classes, hands covered in dirt and petals, grinning. She hadn't spoken to Brandon Cole in 3 months, not in person. They'd exchanged emails, sparse, polite, curious, sometimes funny, sometimes quiet. He'd send photos from airports, a flower stall in Sao Paulo, a strange orchid in Morocco. Once, he sent a snapshot of a boy on a bike, passing under a canopy of wisteria in Japan. No caption, just the image. She sent back a photo of a girl in her workshop, no older than 12, weaving marigolds into her mother's hair. They never talked about us. They didn't have to. One evening, while packing up after a long day, Jade received an envelope. No return address, just her name in that same precise handwriting. Inside, a single invitation. Private garden reception, Brooklyn Heights. A note? No pressure. Just flowers, and maybe one more crooked tie. She laughed when she read it, a small, real laugh, the kind that sat deep in her chest, not on the surface. The event wasn't glamorous, it wasn't even that big. A rooftop garden, dozens of climbing roses, tables with wild arrangements, all made by Jade's own studio. Apparently Brandon had hired her team through a planner, never mentioning his name. When she arrived, the sky was gold with late spring. She wore simple linen, her curls free, no name tag. Inside, the music was soft, the energy mellow. And then, as if timed by some invisible metronome, he appeared, not at the center, but near the edge of the terrace, watching as two older women debated the virtues of peonies over dahlias. His tie? Crooked. She walked to him slowly. No rush, no nerves. He saw her and smiled, and for once it didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like something returned. "I was hoping you'd show," he said. "I was hoping you'd still be bad at ties." He let out a breath of something that almost resembled relief. "I'm not pretending anymore. I really don't know how to tie these." She stepped forward, fixed it again, this time slower. Her fingers rested a little longer. Her eyes searched his, not for intent, but for truth. "There," she said. "That's better." He nodded. "You've gotten even better at this." "I've had practice with all kinds of people." Brandon took a step back to look at her, not in awe, not in surprise, just recognition. "You changed something, Jade," he said. "Not just for me. You made people look again, see again." She tilted her head. "All I did was flowers." "No," he said. "You did what most of us forget how to do. You saw the world when nobody was watching, and you kept building anyway." A breeze passed between them. The party murmured behind them. But in this moment it felt quiet, solid, whole. Jade reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "For you," she said. He opened it carefully. Inside, a single pressed flower, an anemone, and beneath it, written in her own hand, "For the one who delayed a flight to witness something blooming." He stared at it for a long time, then looked up, eyes softer than she'd ever seen. "May I walk you home?" he asked. She smiled. "No," she said. "You can walk beside me." They left the garden as the music swelled, silhouettes fading into the Brooklyn dusk. No one laughed this time. No one whispered. And as the camera would have pulled back, if this were a movie, we'd see them from above. Two people side by side on a rooftop in spring. No spotlight, just respect, just growth, and a single perfect tie.